Good afternoon. Wow, maybe the microphone is not working. Good afternoon. Hello.
Good evening.
Wow, okay, great. At least Loa is online. Grab a seat. There's plenty of seats up front, just like everyone always tells people. So this is the routing area open meeting. That's Andrew, this is John, and this is, of course, me, Alvaro. Today we have a 1-hour meeting. It is going to be a short meeting. We have some items on the agenda we're going to go through in a second. I'm happy that we're having this meeting at the beginning of the week, which is unusual because we usually have it in the middle or towards the end. So it gives us a chance to, when we get to open mic, to talk about any, cross-working group things that you might want to highlight or things that you want to tell other people about for the rest of the week. That's going to be a good thing. So let's start with the slides. Next slide. Yes, please remember to wear your mask unless you're, of course, actively eating or drinking something. Please wear your mask inside all the meeting rooms as part of the policy for the meeting and everything that, and something that you all agree to when you register for the IETF. For those of you guys who are chairs, please remind your working groups about that. We've already had a number of COVID cases reported, and we, of course, don't want that to spread to anyone else. So this is the note well. Please be aware of what it talks about, not just about intellectual property, but also about conduct. The code of conduct is one of the items listed there, and the anti-harassment policy as well. Next slide. The code of conduct includes things, for example, be nice to other people is basically what it summarizes to. Treat everyone with respect, speak slowly. We are not just people sitting here, there's people remotely. There's already over 64 people remote. We speak different languages, so please be aware of the differences and in general, treat people with respect and be a nice person, of course. Next slide. Oh, just to remind everyone to do this, not just, of course, in person or at the meetings, but also as you communicate through the instant messaging as well. You've noticed that, or I hope you've noticed, that Miraco, of course, has a chat. That chat is now tied to a new tool called Sulip. So Jabber, if you still happen to have a Jabber account, has a bridge to that, but that's going to be retired after this IETF. Sulip, you can download an app to your phone or your desktop and just log in with your data tracker credentials, and you'll be hooked to any working group that you want to. Please give us feedback. This is something that we always ask, and we don't get enough of. What are we doing good? What could we improve on? More important than giving us feedback on how we messed up is suggestions for improvement, right? On how can we do better in the future. This is an important time because we are in the middle of the year timeframe of the IETF, which means that the NOMCOM is starting to gear up. I know some of you already have volunteered to be part of the NOMCOM, which is great. Please consider volunteering to serve in one of the open positions as well. This year, John and I's period ends in March. So if you are interested in being an AD, please consider running. If you know of other people who you think would be good at ADs, please consider nominating them as well. If any of you want to talk to any of us about, what type of job, what do we do every day, what does a day in the life of an AD look like, please let us know, and we'll be very happy to talk about that and tell you everything you need to know about the AD job. Another request that we always ask is please review documents. This is important because a big part of the mission of the IETF is to produce documents that people can use to interoperate. These documents need to be clear. They need to be readable by everyone, not just by the person who actually wrote them. It is great that in many cases you trust all your fellow IETF participants and trust that their documents are clear. It would be better if you actually reviewed the documents, and we all made sure that they are the way this should be. So please review them as part of the whole working group process, adoption, working on the documents, working group last call, IETF last call, at any time that you want or you can, please review documents. So this is the agenda for today. We have our normal administrivia at the beginning. We're going to have a Routing Directorate update. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the routing discussion mailing list and a couple of changes that we're making there. Then we're going to have Peng talk about or give us an update on the computer-aware networking work that has been going on. They had a BOF at the last IETF. And then we're going to have some time at the end for open discussion. Does anyone want to add anything to the agenda or change anything? I hope all of you looking down are looking at the agenda on the Meet Echo very carefully, all 4 items. Okay.
Just one thing to add, I think I want to repeat about the mask reminder, because I think a few people came in late and maybe didn't hear Alvaro reminding you that we're all expected to wear masks unless we're actively speaking at the microphone or eating or drinking. So thank you very much. Okay. Who's going to talk to this? I guess I'm holding the mic, so I can talk to this one. Right, so not too many changes in our working groups in our area. We have SAVNet as our new working group, though. And we have MSR6. When is MSR6 meeting?
Tomorrow is MSR6.
Tomorrow, okay. And SAVNet's today, there we go. And I'll hand that to you, yeah. And welcome to Ijun as new SAVNet chair.
Yeah, and then just one other note on the working group status changes. SFC is going to be closed fairly imminently. We've got agreement with the chairs there. And I've also had some discussion about one of the other working groups. So I think the next IETF, you'll see some movement there. The philosophy is basically if there's no more active documents in the working group, then rather make sure that we've got the space and time to do more work elsewhere, and hence closing those groups. So yeah, that's a little bit from there. And then,
Sure. So this slide is just the distribution of the working groups between the 3 of us. In case you don't know who the corresponding AD is, just come in and look for us. But yeah, you can talk to any of us about anything, especially if there are issues in the working groups. Next slide. So now we're on to the Routing Directorate report. Hao-Mian, I believe, should be online. Yes. Here we go. Thank you for joining so late. We're bringing up the...
Just testing to see if people hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. This would be a very quick summary on the Routing Area Directorate. Next page, please. Yeah, currently we have actually 43 experts in the teams, and last time we did some rotated under the guidance of the ADs. Now we are having 43 of them, and we don't have a member changed from last IETF. The purpose of this team is to give the review of the routing error drafts and other related drafts from other areas. And we also offer the early review of any routing area document before the last call. So all the working group chairs are welcome to request this kind of review to the directorate. And the wiki page is available, and you're welcome to visit that. Next page, please. And here are some very brief statistics from last IETF. Actually, we just trimmed this to restart the data from 2021. And from 2021, we are totally having 21 early review and 53 last call reviews. And since last IETF, there are 5 early review and 14 last call review. So basically, this is very close to the average number given the past few meetings. And the top working groups are IDR, BES, and LSR. We also give quite many review on the other areas, basically on OPSA and side jobs, if I remember correctly. And the next, this would be the final page, and all the potential result of the review would be ready with needs, with issues, and not ready. So basically, this is how the number of distributions for different kind of reviews. And we have been looking at, okay, this, for the draft from routing area, this would be almost a half 50% of them getting ready, and there are a lot of works need to be followed up after the review as well. And basically, another statistic for the non-routing draft is on the right-hand side for people's information. And I think that's it. And we will keep this updated every time and reported to the routing area. Thank you.
Thank you, Hamian. Any questions about the routing directorate? So thank you to everyone who's a member of the routing directorate for the efforts you put into reviewing documents, and just a reminder for everyone to review documents whenever you get a chance. So moving on to the next piece of the agenda, we have a routing, not a routing, we have a mailing list called routing discussion. This list has been around forever. It's a general IETF list. It is a non-working group list. The purpose of this list has been to have general discussions around topics related to the routing area. So we have updated the description of this list, and we wanted to talk a little bit about that with you, just so that you're aware. You can now visit, in the next slide, there's a link to the mailman list information. You can visit that and see the whole description of everything that we put there. Basically, the purpose of the list doesn't change. We're just making the description a little bit more complete to include a little bit of scoping, calling out things that are okay to be posted there. We never really had issues with inappropriate postings, and also we are talking about a little bit more specific about the moderator role. What a moderator is. We're assigning a moderator to the list. Russ White, who's sitting over there, he's waving. He volunteered to be the moderator of the list. And one of the things that we're doing is we're extending the moderator's responsibilities to track specific topics and to later report. One of the reasons that we're doing this is because there have been topics that have come up in different places in the routing area, or even outside the routing area in some cases, that are maybe not ready enough to be a working group or a BOF or have a specific proposal. Those things should already follow the normal process, maybe go to our TWG, for example, but they're important to discuss. Last time in our TWG, for example, there was a presentation around the importance of thinking about the evolution of routing in the internet. Yes, that's an important topic. It is within the purview of the routing area. Our mission, remember, is to keep the routing system operational and to make sure that the internet works pretty much. So, topics like that are within the purview. But they are not specific enough, right, to be considered to be a working group, to just go discuss routing, the future of routing. But we want to track those discussions. So we already have this list. So the basic addition is that extra function of the moderators. If you go look at the description, it has some pointers to the note well and the anti-harassment policies and the code of conduct and things like that you expect that were not there before, but just for completeness. We did add these two lists of things that we believe are appropriate and things that we believe are inappropriate. Of course, appropriate is in general topics that are related to the routing area. That doesn't include things that are related to the routing area but have homes. So if you want to talk about extensions to OSPF, you have an idea around OSPF, well, there is a working group for that. So we should go to that working group to discuss those things. We also include here, well, the first bullet there is initial discussions of open-ended topics. So evolution of routing, for example, is an open-ended topic that we hope that by discussing it, we will come up with more specific proposals that as a community, we can discuss things and agree on maybe a direction. That I don't know what the discussion is going to be about. Maybe announcements of conferences or events that are related to the routing area, that's fine. And discussions of IETF, of routing area specific policy or direction. Those things are all in scope. Things that are not in scope that you can see there are, of course, advertisements, or you're trying to hire someone, or whatever. Those types of emails are not good. Anything that goes against the code of conduct or is at odds with whatever the note well talks about. Discussions of subjects that are unrelated to the routing area. Of course, we don't want to discuss them there. There's probably other working group, other lists, maybe working groups, maybe other non-working lists to go discuss them in. Announcements about conferences that are not related to the routing area. So, there's a wide range of things that you can post and discuss on the list. We're just, making it a little bit clear. The text about the moderator, there's two parts of that text. One is what you would expect, a moderator moderates the list. There are tools that a moderator can use if there is uncivil behavior, for example, to restrict postings, etc. The same things that working group chairs have for their own lists. The same mechanisms that are used in other IETF lists. And then we added this paragraph that says, when directed by the routing ADs, the moderator may monitor specific topics and then report back to the routing area. Hopefully in a meeting like this, in the routing area open meeting, there may be a discussion and request for maybe time. Interim meeting, maybe some other time to go discuss some of the topics that are being discussed on the list. This is again intended to catch important discussions around routing technology or around the routing area that you currently don't have a specific home, that are maybe broad, general, that are important to the area and that are important for us to, as a community, consider. So, any questions, doubts, concerns around this update to the description of the routing discussion list. We hope we haven't paired the membership of the lists. It would be great if you all went and subscribed to the routing discussion list, as we hope again that it's going to be more of a general discussion forum for routing specific topics. And since all of you are sitting here, I'm assuming all of you are routing specific topics. So it would be a great list for you to be part of. I haven't seen a big volume of messages on the list, so you don't have to be thinking about an extra volume of things to go read. Comments, questions, everyone happy? Can we do a wave? No? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, okay, great.
All right, so we go to Kian now.
Yes.
All right, so just to briefly tee this up, you may remember that at 113, we had a computing aware networking BOF, and there's been sort of a lot of action on the list since then. So there's a short readout prepared for today. And are you ready to speak? Actually, I don't know. Peng, please go ahead and unmute yourself. And Andrew, are you going to advance the slides or is, okay.
Okay, can you
Please
hear
go
me?
ahead.
Okay,
Yes, we can hear
thank
you.
This is Peng Liu from China Mobile, and it's my pleasure to introduce the work of computing-aware networking. And we had a BOF in IETF114, and there are some progress after BOF. Next slide, please. First is a recap of the motivations. Computing-aware networking aims at computing and network resource optimization by steering traffic to appropriate computing resource, considering both network and computing status. So it is to solve the problem of the closest is not the best, based on the increasing development of CDN and edge computing, providing the best user experience. Okay, next slide, please. So in the camp of the use cases showed the necessity of steering traffic considering more factors besides network status. We also analyzed the gap with DNS and the load balancer, which has a gap of the design for dynamic scenarios of bus approach with additional latency and should learn more resource status. And there were two potential solutions, including the dynamic anycast and enhanced load balancer. The conclusion is that the BOF was successful in agreeing that the use cases are important, while the solutions and next step is not clear. So next slide, please. So to promote this work based on the BOF discussion, we collect 36 issues in the BOF discussion, gave the responses and updated the drafts accordingly. I select some of them that might be concerned by the community. So first category is what the relation between CAN traffic steering and service deployment, discovery, and the upper layer protocol. The answer is that CAN assumes the service has been deployed and discovered in multi-edge sites, aiming at the traffic steering, can make coordinate with upper layer for service deployment and discovery. Moreover, the computing metrics collection income will also benefit them. And the second category is what the relation between CAN and Auto. Auto solves the problem of service instance selection as an off-path solution, as DNS and the load balance. Replies for applications or service before traffic delivery might not be optimal or valid after the handover. So more details are needed of also including some extension to support multi-deployment, quick interaction, integrate more performance metric information. This discussion has also been copied to AutoWG. And the third category is about the computing results. The measurement of it has a similarity and the difference with network. The usage of computing results are often more service specific. The category-based methods are expected but would be solution related. And we also submitted a new draft for that, and there also was a paper about it. And the first one is that can OMT impact every router? So here's unpath selection method might be a potential choice. And the last one is about compute path. Can doesn't compute path directly. It is aware of the network path status and coordinates with existing routing or path solutions. Those are the key issues concerned by the community, and more issues could be found at GitHub. The next slide, please. And we have updated the 3 key draft of problem statement, use cases, gap analysis requirement, and diecast architecture, and also submitted a new draft about computing resource modeling to describe the possible modeling of the compute resource and the usage in CAN. And as a discussion after submitting this draft, the instance selection mechanism might be another item based on the modeling which we will continue working. Okay, next slide, please. So for the next steps, based on the discussion and the contribution after the above, we want CAN to focus on routing-related work. And here are also other issues we want to get feedback from the community. For instance, whether we should rename the draft to the CAN prefix. At the same time, maybe a CAN mailing list is better since we use the diecast mailing list now. And we will continue to refine the draft and welcome more comments. If available, we'd like to request another WG forming above, maybe in next meeting. Moreover, we will make a presentation in the TSV WG of this IETF meeting for cross-domain communication. And that's all. Thanks. And any comments?
So while people are running toward the microphone to make comments, I'll just say that if you do want to engage on this, the place to do it for the moment is still the Dimecast mailing list. And if you do have any remarks about, where this work should go, if it should go, et cetera, you should either share that on the Dimecast mailing list, or you can approach your favorite AD with your comments. So we'll be around all week. There's a mic over there, or we'd be glad to take comments in private. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And I think it's open mic now, right?
Right, so now we got to the part of the meeting where you can all stand up and run to the mic. Please, before I see Tony on with his hand up, Tony, do you have a question about CAN, or do you have something for the open mic?
I had a comment if you want that now.
Either way, it's open mic, so.
Sure, go ahead.
So it seemed to me from the CAN BOF that basically we mostly came to the decision that this was a load balancing problem and not a routing problem.
Yeah, we had load balance for the potential solution, but maybe there's not a consensus that it is a load balancer problem. And considering the following work after both the proponents discuss more about the routing related work.
Chris.
Hi, yeah, I tried to get in the queue. I don't know, it didn't work, but yeah, I mean, to echo what Tony just said, just because you can, or this isn't echoing Tony, but just because you can doesn't mean you should. I just don't think this is the right thing to do. We shouldn't use routing to do this.
Sorry. Okay. Here, checking. Yeah, sorry, I don't know. I should join the queue first. But TNG, China Mobile, Peng is my colleague who's presenting from Beijing. So the thing is, we do believe, this work is significant and involve lots of routing related work. And then the technical details all have been discussed. And then to make it simple, for some proposed solutions like the die-cast one, or they even mentioned the LB, those type of things. For the CAN work, it's going to include both the compute and matrix. The thing is that you have to collect those information through some mechanism, either like the IGP, BGP, and then use those information based on the architecture that's going to be proposed or grid to make the decision, for the optimal instance. And then about instance, some routing paths, those type of things will be like proposed, discussed, all kind of things. So from the very beginning, the site meeting that was held the last March, plus both this past March, though the 100% consensus on the routing not reached yet, but there are significant interest from the routing area with expert and then join the discussion to, I would say, significant interest on this area. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, looks like the online queue is Peng and then Cheng Li, and then you're next.
No, I have no comment. Just wait for others.
Okay, so if you can take yourself out of the queue then, and then I see Cheng Li is also in the online queue.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Please go ahead with your comment.
Yeah. Well, I think we have got a very good beginning of the CAN work because we have finished both in the previous meeting. That is pretty good. And then different people may have different view on the CAN work. That's totally fine, and we can discuss it further on the mailing list or offline. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg Mirsky Erickson. My recollection of how the above concluded was that recommendation to look at existing work in Alta. And I haven't seen that proponents of this work demonstrated that Alta cannot be used for their what they're trying to achieve. So without that, I really find hard entertain any arguments on extension to IGP because the problem, yes, might be need solved, but it appears, at least from what I understand in Alta, that Alta is reasonable mechanism and already exists, and with some extensions, seems to be quite a suitable solution to the problem, which would be just one use case. So I would encourage proponents to analyze Alta, and then if they can demonstrate that yes, Alta is not applicable to their problem, then probably there is a good reason to spend time for the discussion in second BOF. Thank you.
Lin Han from Fitchway. I think right now the CAN BOF has done a lot of good work. I think for future, objective, it's necessary to make it the scope clear, and then we can focus in some specific user case, such as cloud to access. Then otherwise, right now, some area is not very clear to me, because it's mixed with DNS, and also we mix with the node balance. So we better make this clear. Then what is the difference with the future work? Then will be good. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Dirk.
Hi, I hope you can hear me. Yes, I just wanted to both reply to Greg, but also in parts to Tony. We did do updates to the draft. I was involved in some of the updates. Try to clarify the positioning of Dynecast as an on-path selection mechanism. So from that perspective, it is an aspect of load balancing, as Tony pointed out, but it's an on-path selection rather than off-path selection, which is also the differentiation we're using when looking at Alto plus DNS and other off-path solutions. So Alto is covered in the gap analysis part. Now one can and maybe should expand that. I do agree, and we're working on that. And we have some work that we would like to integrate where we looked at a comparison between on-path and off-path, which may answer some of the questions that Greg had as to why off-path mechanisms like Alto do not suffice for the use case that we have in mind. So the work has been progressing. That's the message I wanted to give. There's more work to be done, but we're not ignoring Alto. I mean, I also want to make that clear. Alto has actually been even in the version 0 already of the gap analysis back in March or even last year already. I think Alto was listed already. So it's not that we're ignoring it. We're working on making it clearer and also adding potentially references to quantifications that come from work that has been done, on these aspects. So that is happening, at the moment, and we hope that some of the updates actually have clarified that. Thank you.
Okay, we have 2 more people in the online queue, and then you'll be next. So Peng is next, please.
The auto issues, we address this issue in the gap analysis draft, and we do have some discussion in the auto WG. And at this stage, I think this issues might also be open, because auto also need to do more work than to see if it can meet the requirement or can. And reply to the Linghan's problem that maybe load balance, in fact, is a different aspect with traffic steering of CAN. In fact, we also have the comps in the both. Yeah, one is for the application to meet its requirement, and another is overall overall promote of the results. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Cheng Li. By the way, I would before you start to talk, I'd just like to say I'm glad that we're able to use this meeting time that we've got to have this conversation. This is also the general routing area open meeting. So as Alvaro noted earlier, this is open mic time. So if people have any other topics they would like to bring up, they should also feel free to approach the mic for that. With that said, Cheng Li, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, John. Like, it's really good for us that we still have a lot of work to do. So it's really good, and we do have done some work of the gap analysis. We do propose a new draft, and if possible, please read the draft. And we will be very happy to see guys to reply to the email that we are answering the issues. That would make the work more effectively. Thank you.
Yeah, hello. My name is George Karajanis. I'm working for Huawei. Just a comment, I heard some opinions that during the IETF 113, that it was proposed, that CAN should be based on a load balancing solution, but that is not the case from what I remember. There was an open discussion. There were two actually proposals that could actually work towards solving this issue. One was load balancing, the other one was routing, and that was an open discussion. So it was not decided that load balancing should be the direction, just for clarification.
And I'll just mention that, of course, we've got minutes of the meeting and recording and so on for anybody who wants to go back and review. Linda, please go ahead.
This is Linda Dunbar from Future Way. Since John, you mentioned that we can start other broader discussion, I have a question. So I heard people talking about load balance, right? So, but if you look at load balance, there's layer 3 load balance, there's layer 4 load balance, layer 7 load balance, right? In routing domain, we always do ECMP, right? That's kind of load balance, your balance between multiple paths. So if my question is really, can routing area take that kind of work, like front end, multiple paths, balancing among multiple paths? Would that be part of routing area? Because you do need the routing information and then the distance matrix and the destination matrix. That's my question to the group. No answer?
This is a question that anybody can answer. I don't think it's just addressed to the people sitting up front, and I don't have, like, I'm not sure. I think the answer is it depends, right? Because like you said, there's load balancers that exist pretty much up and down the stack, and things that are close to routing probably belong in routing, and things that aren't don't, which is maybe not a very satisfying answer, but I think we have to take things case by case.
So actually, that's a good answer in a way that load balancing, if you look at traditional load balancing the service instances, they have instance right behind the load balancer, balancing among them, that's definitely not part of the routing work, right? So, but if you talk about network-wise balancing among multiple paths, you need protocol to exchange information. Maybe that's more closer to the routing area than the other areas. So where can we start this kind of discussion and then debate?
How about the routing discussion mailing list?
Okay, thank you.
So just to add really quick, so there's the related topic related to CAN, of course, and the DINCAS mailing list as well, right? Routing discussion is appropriate. If there's already a list, please go there. And the other thing, I mean, to add to what John said about it depends. Sure, is routing technology fit in the routing area? Yes. Does routing related technology? Yes. What is the specific proposal, right? We can't answer a definite anything else besides maybe, unless there is a specific proposal, right? So if there is one, the community and everyone else can, of course, consider that, and we can all decide whether it does fit, or more importantly, whether people want to do the work, which is what we should be deciding, right?
Kenji, China Mobile again. I can give you a real example about the LB, load balancing, not going to work. If you look at the latest 5G architecture, and then you can consider like the UPF, and then there are a trend to lower down the UPF to be DUPF toward the edge side. So if you consider this type of things, you are going to have the compute, as mentioned by my colleague, Peng. The compute can be distributed across different areas, like in local data network, in DN owned by mobile operators, or even in public cloud side. So there are also a trend in 3GPP to put some to the compute in some area, even in the core side, the core network location side. So if you consider everything together, and with the scale of the number of the DUPFs, where are you going to put your LB? How are you going to process or deal with the dynamics of the compute, the load, and also the migration, the quick migration of mobile subscribers? So the work can only be handled, put everything together in a holistic way. It's not just like LB itself. Thank you.
Greg Mirsky Erickson again. So since you mentioned that this is open mic and anything that seems to relate it to routing area, we had this interim meeting in RTGVG on context addressing, and I found very appropriately noted that work on OEM usually often lags behind other documents, and often the documents and technologies news introduced without defining their tools or extensions to existing tools, preferably, that help operators to work with these technologies. So what I would like to discuss, maybe here, start the discussion of what can be done so that these tools will be developed in step. For example, for security, we have security consideration mandatory sections that needs to discuss potential impact, not to solve the problem, but at least to discuss and point to the direction where might work need to be done. For example, I found that interestingly, we have RFC that specifically talks about manageability considerations for PCE working group documents. And that seems to include work on fault management and performance monitoring as part of FCAPS. So that might be a good start, something to look at. So I don't think that it needs to be a mandatory section, but I think that some optional section would be helpful, at least for us not to lose this and not to really get to the situation when we're about to close a group and the group never produced any OEM-related document. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. I think that, at least from my perspective, I definitely acknowledge the problem because I've certainly seen it in some of the working groups that are under me. I think that the solution to this is something that I think Alvaro and John and myself are going to have to take away and have a bit of a discussion with, and then come back to you on that, because I do think, though, that it is something worth having a really good look at. And thank you for the feedback. It's much appreciated.
Yeah. And I probably would interpret come back to you as come back to us.
Yes, yes. You, the group.
Yep, and then we have Tony and then AC in the queue.
So my understanding of the load balancing approach was pretty straightforward. There would be some mechanism for distributing instance load out to all of the access routers. And then access routers would bind one subscriber to the instance. The tricky part was a global database whereby that binding from subscriber to instance had to be distributed so that if the user changed his particular access router, the binding was retained. Other than that, this seemed like a very straightforward problem.
Okay, thanks. AC, you're next.
My question is, where are we with the Yang models that were in the cluster that we're all waiting on the BFD Yang RFC? Better to cover that now than in every working group that's been waiting on this cluster.
Yep, I do not know off the top of my head, but I will go and check and report back. Thanks for asking.
Okay. Thanks.
And Shuping, please go ahead.
Peng from Huawei. I'm on open mic. Here is a question to our ADs. That's regarding the APing working group to be created. And we know that the rough consensus has been achieved. So my question is, what is the timeline for this working group? Thank you.
So we just had a meeting about it up here, and we think it's reasonable to try to get that done by the next IETF by 115.
Okay, thank you.
And the queue is empty. So going once, going twice, and we are concluded. Thank you, everybody. The now traditional driving area meeting way. You get your iPad working finally, or just give up?
I've had the same problem at every meeting. The last meeting I had the
Oh,
same problem.
you mean like at 113, or you mean?
Yeah, the 113. I can log into the no problem. You see all the stuff. Yes. Need everything from the data and everything. Just in case.